Oh, the grass. Oh no.
Well, that didn't take long. It's pretty rare that we get out there on the racetrack with the pros. Sure, they might take us around for a hot lap or that kind of thing, but when it comes to actually going wheel to wheel on the track, it's generally not allowed. The risk of damage to expensive cars or expensive body parts is simply too high. But in the virtual world, the only thing you have to worry about is damaging your ego. Porsche was kind enough to give me an opportunity to get on the track with Mitchell deJong, one of the most successful sim racers right now, who's running the Porsche Esports Super Cup in 2020. Mitchell showed me the quick way around Zandvoort, and he showed me a lot of his taillights too. Hey Mitchell, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well.
All right, so why don't we just go out and run a couple installation laps here, and we'll have a little conversation, and we'll see how things go. We've got 30-minute practice here, and I'll see if I can stay off the wall for that long.
Perfect. Sounds good. Do you know the layout of the track pretty well?
Okay, so I have not driven much at Zandvoort, I'm sorry to say. So I spent this morning doing a couple hours of practice, but that's about it.
It's a cool layout. Very challenging, not very forgiving, as you might have noticed.
Yeah, I see a lot of walls.
Definitely. And the grass isn't too helpful either when you dip a wheel.
There's a lot of camber, which I've noticed, which is good and helpful, but there's also a lot of off camber, which is difficult. And then I got to be honest, I'm not too familiar with driving the 911. I've done a few laps here and there with it, but this season I've been doing the IMSA M8 GTE, which is a very, very different beast from this thing. So I've been struggling to get this to turn, and then it seems like when it starts turning, it's hard to get it to stop turning sometimes.
Right. And also the braking is very difficult with this car, not forgiving at all, especially compared to, say, a GT3 car with ABS and whatnot. This is just completely raw, no assist, so kind of throwing you right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would have loved a little bit more time for practice, but so it goes. So, how many hours a week do you play iRacing and other sims at this point?
At this point, the last few days I've actually been putting in around 6 to 8 hour days of drive time. Doesn't really include kind of setup work and all that where you're outside of the car. I've actually been kind of caught up qualifying for my NASCAR Pro license, as well as Rallycross, and also practicing for Porsche Esports Super Cup. So, you know, things just kind of happen, and you know, certain opportunities came up, and I'm a lot busier than I thought I would be, but you know, it's very fun for me still. So, you know, I enjoy putting in the work. So, you know, just gotta kind of ride the wave and go with it.
So you've obviously had a huge amount of success in the Rallycross stuff so far this season, and that's kind of where you're coming from the real world as well, right? You've had huge success in the real world too. Certainly,
yeah. My last years kind of in real racing, I've been in Rallycross. So it is kind of my background. When it got introduced into iRacing, I was really excited. It just felt so natural to drive right away. So yeah, that's definitely more my style. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to be invited to this invitational series that's just happened and take part in the World Championship the last 2 years, which is a very cool thing.
And when did you get start racing in the real world?
I started when I was 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
Started in karts, you know, the normal route that kind of everyone takes. Moved on to some short course off-road racing in, say, trucks and buggies. Did that until I was about 14. Also dipped into a bit of legend oval racing, pavement. And when I was about 15, we kind of got the opportunity to put it all together and jump into Rallycross.
And huge success at X Games, of course.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's been a dream of mine to just take part in X Games, and it's super cool to say that I have a gold and a silver medal. Like, wouldn't have ever dreamed of that. I mean, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's an amazing competition. It's an amazing series, and yeah, that's a huge privilege. So congratulations.
Appreciate it.
So you know, your family is racing as well, and that's probably what got you started early in the real world. But how long have you been sim racing for?
Yeah, so I started sim racing when I was about 13. You know, one of my friends, back at the time when I was racing short course off-road stuff, he kind of came across iRacing and was like, hey, come over and try this out. It's really fun, and it's different than just a normal easy video game. It's actually like a serious thing. And, you know, trying it once, I kind of knew, like, yeah, I really want to have a go at this. You know, I kind of understood that, you know, real racing is difficult with practice time. It's cost dependent, track availability, vehicle availability. With sim racing, like, you have unlimited time to test, you can do it from home, and that kind of is what, you know, caught my eye. So using it for a training tool for real racing, basically.
And then when did it kind of start to become the more dominant side of the equation, or has it just been with all the global developments of late?
For me, I would say kind of 2017, I started taking it on a more equal level to my real racing. You know, opportunities come and go, and for me, the last few years, some real world opportunities went away for me having a full-time seat. And, you know, sim racing has always been there where, you know, if you have the skills, if you put in the time, you can go as high as you want to go in terms of competition. So for me, at that point was kind of the big turning point for me, just to really take it serious, take the opportunities as they go, and I've been pretty much full-time in sim racing since then.
So professional sim racer, this is what's paying the bills at this point?
At this point, yes, correct.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you said time and skill, of course. Is there a, you know, a ratio of the two that you need? I mean, if somebody is, let's say, lacking in skill a little bit like myself, how much time would I need to invest in extra to maybe be able to catch up with you a little better than I'm doing right now?
I think it just depends on the person. Some people are quick learners, some, you know, need a bit more time. You know, I could think of a couple years ago where I couldn't drive more than maybe 2 hours on the sim in a day before I just stopped taking in information and stopped improving. But nowadays I can pretty much drive for 6 hours and continue to make progress. So, you know, your mind develops over time. You know, you yourself, just to make sure you do, you know, good practicing the right habits, being fully focused and into it the whole time, and that will make a huge difference.
And do you set targets for yourself when you're out practicing for hours and hours? Do you have specific goals that you're going for, or does it really depend on the scenario and what you're going for?
Definitely for me, I'm a big list person. You know, everything has to be have a reason for me doing something.
Excuse me as I hit the wall here.
And yeah, so start of the day, I kind of make a list of things I want to test, things I want to work on. A lot of times a week in advance even. So like today I have certain qualifying runs, stints and things like that I need to hit as a target and try to improve on. And you just keep trying to make little improvements each day, because once you get kind of the very high level of sim racing, you're not looking for seconds of gains anymore. You're looking for kind of hundredths over a 2-minute lap. So it's very difficult to map out exactly what's kind of going on, how your progress is going, but it's pretty important, I find.
Now, how did this 911 drive come for you? Because you'll be campaigning in this car through the 911 series coming up.
So previously we had a world championship in the Formula 1 car here on iRacing, and in a bit of a surprise announcement, they partnered with Porsche, iRacing did, and created this new series, and it's basically the pinnacle of road racing for us in esports right now in iRacing. So this became the new big thing, and you know, of course, everyone wants to take part, everyone likes the competition, and to go for the big money. So kind of how it came about.
And how much money are we talking about?
I believe this year it's looking at 200,000 for the total prize pool.
Wow, that is big money.
It is indeed, for sure. To drive in some air conditioning, no complaints.
And so the first round is this weekend. Zandvoort is the first track. How many hours have you spent lapping this track already this week to kind of get prepared?
So my testing this week has been put a little bit late. Started on Monday. We're up to 8 hours or so of driving, so pretty decent work. I'm feeling fairly comfortable, but still looking for a little speed, so hopefully in a few more days' time we'll be ready for the race. But I think we're in a good window. Everyone's right on top of each other, so any little gains you can make is very critical in the series. Less than probably half a second will cover the entire field of 40 cars in qualifying, so you need to make sure you're on your point by Saturday.
And do you have a method for setup changes versus style changes, that kind of thing? Do you have do you tell yourself, I'm not going to make any setup changes for the first number of hours, or is it kind of a back and forth thing for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely depends on the car, I would say. Certain cars that you might be very comfortable in, you might be ready to make changes within 10-15 minutes of running. There will be other times where maybe I need to put in a couple hours to really get a good feel for the car, to make sure I'm not developing it in the wrong way. So this is one of those where the setup is quite basic on the car, just like it is, I think, in the real world. It's not overly complicated, which is a good thing. Yeah, I think it's important to develop yourself as a driver first before you start kind of going through the options.
And how much time does it take you to get comfortable going from a rallycross car to the 911? I mean, this is a significantly different driving experience, not only because of the amount of grip, but just the structure of the car and everything else. Does it take you a while to get used to things?
It is very different. I would say if you asked me probably a few years ago, I would say it could take me up to an hour to kind of switch in between cars, adapt driving styles. Nowadays, after you kind of drive multiple things for so many years, you kind of diversify yourself, and thankfully I can say that it's a lot quicker now that I can make that switch, which is very handy to have with different conditions and things like that. So for example, I already was testing a bit of rallycross this morning right before this, so I would say within a couple laps of each combo you can pretty much make the switch.
And is there any overlap between the two? I mean, it does feel like this car almost likes to have the rear end pushed a little bit, to slide a little bit. So is there any overlap?
A little bit. You do need to drive both cars quite on the edge. Both of the cars, say Rallycross and this one, very easy to overdrive and lose a significant amount of time. So you need to be right on that fine edge, perhaps just a couple of percent below 100%, just to make sure you don't overdo it. And there are similarities like that. Braking is also quite difficult to get right in both. So it's definitely closer than some other road cars that we have.
It feels like trail braking is very important in just about all cars in iRacing, but in particular it feels like you really need to be lingering on the brake for a long time to keep the nose down. Is that right?
Certainly. This car doesn't have really any downforce. Not a huge amount of grip. So you need to kind of control the weight of the car really well.
And that weight is oddly balanced, of course, because we've got a motor that's hanging way out back behind us.
That's correct, yeah. Anything you can do to kind of manage that well can pay off dividends in some of these high-speed corners and things like that.
All right, so let's do a lap together here if you want. Let's get her back to the start-finish, and then maybe you can walk me through and point out all the places where I'm losing a lot of time. Obviously, I can see where I'm losing a lot of time, but maybe walk me through any kind of cues that you have, and maybe help me pick up a couple tenths here and there?
Yeah, sure. Shall I go behind you at the start of the lap?
Oh, okay, that's intimidating, sure. Probably the last time I'll get to see you in my mirrors.
Might be easier for me to pick out things. Oh, the grass. Oh no.
Well, that didn't take long. You didn't push me, did you?
Nope, nope.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those places where I've been struggling to keep the nose gripping, because it feels like you got to drag the brakes again through there, but I want to maintain so much speed. And then right, same thing through here.
I pretty much trail brake until you're about ready to pick up the throttle at that point.
Okay.
Missed that apex by a mile.
One thing you might have noticed with this car, there's a lot of slow in, fast out kind of corners that you can do with this. That is quite critical. Making sure you're not overdriving the entry. Another thing, this car also likes to kind of be fed into the corner, turning in kind of early and trail braking it down.
Who made those tire tracks?
Honestly, I'd say you have a pretty good handle on it, though.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's more than a little intimidating to see you filling up my mirror there. This corner is pretty remarkable. It feels like you're about to take off and you go over the ridge there and then just sliding your way through the whole thing. This track is a lot of fun, I gotta say. I haven't really done too many laps here before.
I find it to be a very difficult track to completely nail a lap. A lot like, you know, say something like the Nordschleife. Even though it's much longer, there's just so much time that you can gain out of this track just by doing something a little bit different.
Well, I appreciate you saying it's very difficult. That makes me feel a little bit better about myself. All right, Coach, tell me everything I'm doing wrong.
I would say make sure you're being very positive on your inputs, picking up the throttle early, accelerating hard out, using all the track. Definitely have the right idea for all the lines and stuff, so.
Okay, well, that's something. Do you have any guidance on braking technique? Because that's, I think, really where I'm struggling too. It feels like you have to run a lot of rear brake bias, which is a challenge to begin with this car. But it feels like I'm trying to just fight the rear end from coming around every time I go in a braking zone. And then I'm struggling to get the nose to stay stuck as I'm going through the corner.
For sure. So a GT car like this will be a little bit different, say, than what you'd have with a downforce car, where you want your peak pressure initially and then to bleed off due to all your downforce. With this, you want to kind of feed it in a little bit slower, maybe not hit your peak pressure instantly as you hit the pedal, but maybe a tiny bit after. And you don't want to brake as hard as you possibly can. It's okay to brake a little bit lighter, kind of roll a little bit more speed through the braking zone and pick up the throttle pretty early. It's also quite easy to overheat the tires with this due to small lockups or slides and things like that, which can cost you up to half a second to a second per lap over a race.
Now, it seems to me like this race is potentially going to be a lot of carnage with all these walls around. You know, not only people running into walls, but then coming back on the track. Do you have any strategies for surviving that all-important first lap and getting through clean?
Yeah, surviving is the key word. I think the most critical thing will be qualifying. As is usually the case with this series, overtaking definitely happens a lot, but it's very difficult. Usually it comes when someone makes a mistake, which is easy to do in this car. So qualifying well, you know, ideally you want to be kind of 8th in qualifying because we have a 8-car invert. If you can manage that, finish well in your heat race, and just kind of stay out of the trouble. If you qualify somewhere in the mid-pack, it's just a game of survival, of trying not to be caught up in it and try to pick your battles wisely to move forward.
I've been on the losing end of many battles lately, which is very frustrating after you spend a couple hours practicing and somebody gets the red mist going and that ends your day.
For sure. It's easy to do. Easy to do.
Wow.
Oh, good save.
Thank you.
I had a great view of that.
Now, what setup are you driving on? What steering wheel, pedals, that kind of thing?
So I have a 80/20 aluminum profile rig, very modular stuff like you see on CNC routers and all of that. I have a direct drive wheel, and basically it's just a big servo motor with a steering wheel attached to it. So it's basically as much detail as you could possibly ever get. Pedals that feel like the real car, have the ability to output the force, or, you know, require you to put the force in to simulate, say, an IndyCar brake pedal if you really wanted. So for me, I have to drive with shoes, I have to drive with gloves, otherwise I'll tear up my hands and feet with all of this. But you know, it's feeling very realistic, I would say.
Are you okay talking brands, or would you rather leave those out?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. So the stuff I'm using now is all of our VRS stuff.
Oh, blew that one.
I'm on
Sorry, continue.
You're good. I'm actually on a VRS prototype wheel and pedal set. Basically, quite similar to some of the others, and yeah, it's a very good setup. It's basically as much detail as you could ever want in kind of a setup, which is nice.
And that's just coming to market right now, right? Or very soon?
It is. I want to say it's being shipped out for Europe about right now, and I think the US is coming very soon. So that'll be exciting for everyone, because I think in these times everyone's looking for a set of controls, and that's kind of the pinnacle right there.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch so many wheel and pedal setups selling out through everybody, but it's also, you know, great to see so many people getting on board. And so your work with VRS as a coach, does that mean people who are running the 911 can download your setups and that kind of thing this season?
They can. So for me, I do all the rallycross data. So we have other coaches that handle kind of like, say, this car, for example, on the service. And yeah, no, it's basically anyone can just jump in, look at the data, compare, see how they stack up, and learn. So it's a very useful tool. All
right. So any parting thoughts? Anything I should keep in mind as I'm going into my qualifying laps here?
I think just make sure you hit all your apexes. Be positive on the controls. Pick up the throttle as early as you can and kind of manage the slide. You know, we only have a couple laps here, so tire wear is not an issue, so you can kind of just go all out. Just make sure you hit your marks still.
All right, here we go.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Should I be asking you lots of complicated questions now to try to slow you down, or are you immune to such distraction techniques?
Nowadays, I guess we're kind of used to it.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
What is your favorite? Do you like more qualifying or a race session?
Oh, definitely race session. Yeah, that's kind of why I'm in this. Qualifying is fun, but I'm actually never very good at qualifying. I don't tend to be any quicker with a qualifying setup than I am with a race setup. I don't know if that tells you anything about my driving style or abilities, but I usually just try to survive qualifying, and yeah, I'm more about the wheel-to-wheel stuff myself.
Yep, gotcha.
How about you?
I go back and forth, I would say. It is fun to really nail that lap in qualifying. It's a very good feeling. But nothing gets the heart going like a good race, you know?
Yeah. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't appreciate about sim racing, those who've never tried it or never kind of done it at a higher level, just how thrilling that can be and how close to the same thrill that you get out of a real race that you get in a sim race, because, you know, it's still real people. It's still the same tricks, the same undercutting, overcutting, the same, you know, changing lines to try to get by somebody, and it's definitely the same rush.
No doubt. Say, for example, I've worn a heart rate monitor quite a few times during my World Championship races. Even though I'm not really doing too much physically, you know, outside of the wheel and pedals, my heart rate still gets up to 145-ish just due to the pressure.
Wow.
The intensity of everything. It's basically the same as whenever I would check it in the real car. So, you know, you finish a race and you're still sweating, you're still look like you just got out of the car, but I think that's just a sign of how real it is. And, you know, if you can fully get past that immersion kind of factor of not having that seat of the pants feel, then it's pretty much the same.
Something tells me you probably won't be hitting 145 today, but please do tell me if I'm incorrect in that assumption.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. Perhaps, you never know. Could have a really good battle.
I hope so. I'll do my best anyway. The way this first qualifying lap's going, though, well, we'll see.
It's all good. That's all we have to.
I've kept it off the grass anyway.
Perfect.
Usually my goal of the first lap is no incidents, get a time in, and then I kind of send it in lap 2.
That's a good strategy. Put down a banker. Nothing worse than having no time at all.
Well, that was that. Half spin. Well, my slow safety lap's gonna have to count, which was a 42.7, which is about a second slower than I was running before, so that's a little disappointing for me, I gotta say.
That's all right. I think the first lap, the tires are a little bit cool, so it gains a bit.
I appreciate you giving me any excuse you can give me. Thank you very much. If you have any more you want to share, feel free. All right. Remember to load the race setup. All right, so we got a 25-minute race, so it's probably going to be, what, 10, 15 laps, something like that?
Yep, about that.
My goal is to not get lapped by you. Does that sound like a good goal?
Yeah, you'll be fine. Honestly, you're actually not too far off at all. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
On the grid, second place.
Yes.
Next to Mitchell deJong.
And way too much wheel spin. All right, good luck.
Thank you.
You're gonna need it. Do I get points for style?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You might have noticed that our lap is quite tricky, the cold tires.
Yes, I have noticed. Both on entry and exit. Have you seen the 80s movie Wraith, perchance? It's a little before your time.
I might have. I am not very good at names, but I feel like I might have.
It's about basically a ghost street racer who comes back to kind of avenge his death. And his whole thing is that he challenges the rival gang that ultimately killed him, and he races against them in his super duper futuristic ghost car and disappears over the corner, and then they come around the corner and they find him parked in the middle of the road and they run into him and everybody blows up and dies, basically.
Oh, okay.
And I just keep expecting to come around the corner and see you sitting in the middle of the road waiting for me to run into you and then kill me in a giant ball of virtual fire.
It is a strategy, that's for sure. At around this point in the run, you'll probably notice that car's starting to lose a little bit of grip.
Definitely. Is that the tires starting to get warm, or just the lack of fuel over the front end?
Mostly tires are just starting to go away. By the end of this, actually wear quite a bit to where that you couldn't go too much longer if this was an endurance race. So the wear is quite high with this.
And how long is the feature race that you'll be doing? How many laps, or how many minutes?
So our sprint race will be 15 minutes, and the actual feature will be 30, so just a little bit longer than this one.
So will tire conservation then play part of the game?
It could, definitely. If you're sliding around a lot, trying to get everything out of it in the beginning, by the end of the feature, it actually does make a bit of a difference, which is something that we haven't had the last, I would say, year with this car. So it will be nice to have that little bit of strategy, even though it's a bit of a sprint race. There's still a bit of strategy you can have.
What's your favorite car in iRacing at this point?
That's a tough question.
Good, maybe let's lay down.
I have to say I love all the rallycross cars, but I think that's an easy one for me to say. I'm a big fan of the prototypes, say an LMP1 car, like the Porsche 919. It's always a good one. Very fast, so I would say that's probably the most fun just to drive to me.
But this 911 does offer a lot of challenge. It's definitely, you can feel the car really well. The balance of the car is very different than just about anything else in the game. And that makes it a huge challenge, at least for me, coming from something big, heavy, and front engine. It's been a bit of a learning process today.
Yeah, no doubt. This car is a big confidence car, I would say. You need to be really comfortable in it to just kind of shave off the time. It's so crucial to have a good feel of like what the limit is under braking, the corners, and how to make it do what you want, because it's easy for it not to do exactly what you want. So
confidence is what I got to work on. All right, I'll add that to my my checklist of things to focus on. What would be your dream drive in the real world? Where do you hope to wind up someday?
honestly, I'd love to do a bit of racing in a GTE car. I think those are very fun to drive. You know, that's kind of the top level of GT racing. You know, that's definitely a goal of mine one day.
I think you certainly opened a lot of eyes with your sim racing performance of late. So maybe once you know, all this fun is over and everybody can get back to real racing on the real world, maybe some doors will open up for you too. I hope so.
That'd be cool. That's the crazy part nowadays. You know, if you take a few years back, something like that would never be possible. But you know, nowadays it's definitely being taken more serious. People kind of realize that it is kind of a real thing and it is transferable. You know, having someone like Porsche who are investing so much into a series like this is, you know, showing that they take it serious too, which is a super cool thing for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's been amazing to watch esports in general grow over the past couple of years, but sim racing, of course, over just the past couple of years has really blown up. Now it's world class on broadcast TV. It's pretty incredible.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the tires are not as happy as they used to be. Which probably means I've been overdriving things.
Is it mostly front tires or rears that you're feeling?
Mostly front, yeah. It's pushing even more than it was before.
Yeah, having that issue too. I'm trying to back up my corners a little bit under braking and getting on the throttle a little bit sooner just to kind of use the rear to make the car turn.
I'm glad this is a productive time for you.
There you go. Ready to go for the weekend now.
Nice.
All right, I think we got 2 laps left. If you're going to catch me, you better hurry up.
Doing my best.
I'm trying to make it easy for you. Well, my dog just came in to watch me cross the finish line.
Oh, lovely. Have an audience.
So I got a fan at least. I'll blame that missed corner on him.
We have a few cats, and for some of my races, I actually need to put up a wall blocking off the room that I'm driving in because one of them likes to lay on top of my computer and onto the power button. So.
Oh, yeah, that would be problematic.
Yeah, that's a big one to avoid.
It'd be one way to go viral, but probably not a way you'd like to.
Yeah.
I'm coming. Thanks for waiting. All right. Well, I survived, and I didn't get lapped, so I'm pretty proud of that.
Very good.
Mitchell, thank you so much for taking some time. I know you got a really busy week. That was a pleasure. Any final bits of advice for me?
Honestly, just keep at it. Seriously, like you did actually really well. So, you know, for being so new in the car. So yeah, you're doing your thing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, that was quite a race. I definitely didn't expect to be able to keep up with him, and indeed I couldn't, but I had a relatively clean race, given it was a new car to meet, a new track to me. But man, I learned a lot just watching the lines of Mitchell. I've got a lot of practice, a lot of time I need to put in this. Best of luck to Mitchell in the new series, and I think I'm going to change my shirt. Ugh.